In this example, we're going to use what we've already learned about factoring to solve this equation. So we have 12x squared minus 20x plus 3 equals 0. So first of all, we're going to factor the expression 12x squared minus 20x plus 3. Okay, so we're going to find the factors of 12x squared minus 20x plus 3. And we start off with these complex trinomials. It begins with a number other than 1, and that's what makes it complex. So we start off by multiplying the 12 times 3, and that gives us 36. So that's the first thing we do. We multiply the first bit and the last bit. Now we look for the factors of 36. Okay, and if we think of those, the factors of 36 are going to be 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, and 6 times 6. We want these factors because it ends in a plus. Okay, this ends in a plus, so we want these factors to add, and our target is going to be 20. Okay, so we're going to pick a pair of factors that add together to give you 20. And that's going to be 2 and 18. Okay, so 2 and 18 are going to be the factors that we use here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to go back now to here. We're going to keep the 12x squared. We're going to keep the plus 3. And we're going to replace the negative 20x. We always replace the middle term in these problems. Okay. We're going to replace it with this combination, 18 and 2. So it's going to be 18x and 2x. 18x and 2x. Okay, now we have to figure out what sign should be in front of each of these. And there's two different ways you can do it. You can follow this very strict rule. The minus sign, the first sign in the problem goes in front of the bigger number. So you can put a minus with the 18. Okay, so the first sign, the first sign always goes with the bigger number. So we can do that. And then the question ended in a plus. A plus at the end tells us that the two signs we're going to use are going to be the same as one another. Okay, so if we used a minus already, because the two signs have got to be the same as one another, we need another minus here. And we can confirm by checking that minus 18x minus 2x, if we add those, minus 18x plus minus 2x, that should give us minus 20x. And it does. So that confirms that we're right. So two different ways of doing it. Do these numbers add up to give you minus 20? They do. The other way of doing it is, whatever the first sign in the problem is, should go in front of the bigger number. Check the last sign. Since the last sign is a plus, two signs in our answer, the two new signs, the two missing signs, have got to be the same as one another. Okay, so we've got our 4 steps here now. 12x squared minus 18x minus 2x plus 3. We're going to use grouping to factor what we have here. Okay, so factor by grouping. Okay, now we've dropped the equal 0. Strictly speaking, we should put it in. So let's put that equals 0 in there. Okay, so if we do factoring by grouping, we have 12x squared minus 18x. That's our first group. And our second group is minus 2x plus 3. And this is all equal to 0. But let's leave the equal to 0 over there, out of the way a little bit. Okay, so we're giving ourselves plenty space between each group, and the whole thing is equal to 0. Right. If we've got this far, then we need to get the GCF of each pair. So what's the biggest number that divides into 12 and also divides into 18 evenly? And the biggest number that divides into each of those evenly is 6. Okay, so 6 is going to be part of our GCF. What's the letter that appears in both places? It's obviously x. X appears in both places. We take the smallest part of that letter. We have an x squared here and an x here. X is the one with the smallest part, so 6x. Okay, so that's going to be our GCF. So we're going to keep GCF outside the parentheses. We divide both of these by 6x. We divide them both by our GCF. Okay, now 12 divided by 6 is 2. X squared divided by x. We've seen this so often now, you should kind of know it without thinking about it. X squared divided by x. If you've forgotten, what we do is we subtract. When we're dividing letters, we subtract the powers. So 2 take away 1 is 1. So it's 2x to the power of 1, or just 2x. Then we have minus 18x divided by 6x. A minus divided by a plus is going to be a minus. 18 divided by 6 will be 3, and the x's will cancel. Okay, so that's the factors of the first pair. Now look at the factors of this pair. And in this case, we're going to have minus 2x plus 3. Ask yourself, what is the biggest number that divides evenly into 2 and that also divides evenly into 3? And the only number that divides evenly into 2 and also into 3 is 1. So it's going to be a 1. Okay. Ask yourself, what letter appears in both? And there is no letter. So it's just going to be 1. But if you remember, sorry about that, try and get rid of that. If you remember, when this second pair begins with a minus sign, we make minus part of our GCF. So this pair, okay, we'll write it over here. The second pair begins with a minus. So include the minus as part of your GCF. Okay, so the second pair began with a minus sign, so include the minus sign as part of the GCF. So make this minus. Okay, so let's come back and finish this off now. So, if we divide each of these by minus 1, what do we get? Minus 2x divided by minus 1. Minus divided by minus is plus, and anything divided by 1 just gives you the same thing. So it's going to be plus 2x. Plus 3 divided by minus 1. A plus divided by a minus, different signs, so the answer is going to be minus. 3 divided by 1 is just 3. Now, as always, check that the inside factors are the same as one another. Okay, check that the inside factors are the same as one another. They are. So that means we can put those in one parenthesis, 2x minus 3, and put the other factors, the outside factors, in the second set of parentheses. So 6x and minus 1. And remember, this is the bit that it's easy to forget, we're always saying all of this is equal to 0. Okay, equal to 0. Now we've seen this a lot of times before. What we'll do is we'll split this question up. So we'll have 2x minus 3, and as long as it's equal to 0 you can do this, but only when an expression is equal to 0. So you can take the first factor and say 2x minus 3 equals 0. You can take the second factor and say 6x minus 1 equals 0. So you put them both independently equal to 0. And now what we're going to try and do is get x on its own for each of them. So ask yourself, let's deal with the one in green here, 2x minus 3 equals 0. Ask yourself, what's on the wrong side? It's the minus 3, so we move it across, and we change the sign as we move things across, the equal sign. Of course, we're really adding 3 to both sides, but this is a shortcut. So 2x is going to be equal to 3. And now if that's 2x, we just divide by 2. So 2x divided by 2 is equal to 3 over 2. So 2's cancel. And you're left with x is equal to 3 over 2. That's one of our answers because we've got x on its own. Let's do the 6x minus 1. again, ask yourself, what's on the wrong side? It's the minus 1, because you want x's on its own. So add 1 to both sides simply by moving it across and changing the sign. That gives you 6x is equal to 1. And now if that's 6x, we have to divide across by whatever is attached to the x. In this case it's 6. Divide both sides by whatever is attached to your x. The 6's here will cancel, and that gives you x is equal to 1 over 6. And we just leave our answer as a fraction, okay? Now, in the first one you could say 3 over 2 is the same as 1.5, so it's fine to leave it as 1.5 or 1.5. But for x equals 1/6, it's much better to leave it as a fraction, because if you try and write it as a decimal, you're going to get a recurrent decimal. So 1 over 6 is the sensible way to write this one. Okay, and those are your two answers, x equals 3 over 2 and x equals 1/6. Okay, thanks for listening.